Amma guruna machuya jiya siya sannamiladhapayitto padivaya paramatto varesi pandita attanam ammanam. Oh my goodness, what language was this? Is this a North Indian language or a South Indian language? I have never heard of this. Might be yes, you have never heard of it. This is a language which is similar to Sanskrit in many ways but yet different. It's called Prakrit. Prakrit was a language that was designed in those days. Sanskrit was never designed. It was the perfect way it was. But why was Prakrit designed? That's an important question we need to answer. Sanskrit was treated as a language of gods. It was so sacred. It was treated sacrosanct. It was beautiful. It was tailor-made. It was scientific. Well, this was all for Sanskrit. Just imagine women in those days, if they wanted to converse on the mundane things, on the daily affairs, why would they use such a technical language, such a scientific language, such a tailor-made language to even speak out? So they thought, might as well come up with a language that sounds like Sanskrit, yet its grammar and wording and sounding be so easy, be so sweet, be not that, I wouldn't put the word stuff, I would rather use the word so perfect to Sanskrit. Let it not be that perfect, let it be a bit, let it be a dialect of Sanskrit, so let's call it Prakrit. And they came up with this language. It's believed that Saraswati Devi, the goddess of learning, in her young age used to speak Sanskrit. So this particular verse that I recited at the start is of that language. Here the verse is Amma guruna machuya jiya siya sannamiladhapayitto padivaya paramatto varesi pandita attanam ammanam. What is this verse all about? Here the composer, who is none but Deshika, a poet par excellence, he says, the great Guru, the preceptor, the Acharya, let him sit on the throne that resides on my tongue, and let every word that comes out of my mouth or be out of my pen be a great success. So it's an invocation, it's an invocatory verse, or it's a verse that seeks the blessings of one's Guru. Here, to enjoy the great work of Ramayana, Valmiki is our only Guru. So let's give a great salutation, let's salute the great poet called Valmiki from the bottomest of our hearts, and let's get inside who this Valmiki was. In Matsya Puran, out of the 18 prime Puranas, there is one Purana called as Matsya Puran, which speaks about the history of this great poet called as Valmiki. In Matsya Puran, it is said, Sage Bhrigu was a great sage. Sage Bhrigu was an illustrious person. He was a sage of immense powers, and he was known as a personification of great meditation. Bhrigu's descendant was a certain other rishi called as Prachetas. Prachetas was married and he had too many children, and to just add another one to the number of children he had another child. His wife said, Prachetas, hey Muni, we already have too many children, and with the little money we make, I do not know whether we can give them a proper life, proper food. So what do we do with this kid? The sage abandoned the child in the forest and went. On the other hand, there was a hunter couple who were not blessed with a child. They walked by that way and they found this little child that was abandoned in the forest. They picked up the child and they embraced the child, and the lady, the hunter woman, said to her husband, we do not have kids. Why don't we take this little child home and probably he'll be our adopted son? So they took the child. He was called Ratnakar. This Ratnakar was a very, very intellectual person right since his birth. Yet his intellect was never put to practice, because he started working the same way as his father. He was a hunter. Later, due to his family being huge, he was married and he had too many children, and having had so many children, he wanted to run his family, and so he started taking up the profession of threatening the people who would travel by the forests, seize all the wealth and the jewels that they had, and run his family. His family was very clear: as long as you bring money and jewels home, we would accept you. Well, being a family man, he started doing it. Days later, he came across one illustrious person in the forest. This person, this sage, was walking with a tanpura in his hand. Some say it's a veena, which is another musical instrument. He had a great shikha at the back. He had a shikha in his back. He had the sacred thread, and along with this, he was just reciting one name many times: Narayan, Narayan, Narayan. People who have seen films, people who have loved to watch serials, people who have loved to read such novels will know who this person is. He's none but Narad Maharshi. Narad, while he was walking, he was suddenly threatened by this particular Ratnakar. Ratnakar said, "Who are you?" Narad Rishi said, "I am Narad. I am the sage of all the three worlds. I go place to place spreading the great message, the name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. And why have you threatened me? Why have you seized me?" Ratnakar said, "Hey Muni, I believe that from far you look like a mass of gold. You must be gold by yourself. So I want to seize you, take you home, probably chop you into pieces, sell pieces of it to the pawnbroker, and then feel happy that I've helped my family earn its bread and butter for years together." Narad Maharshi was surprised. He said, "I may look like a mass of gold, but I'm not gold. I'm a human being after all, Ratnakar. And by the way, if this is your profession of threatening people who pass this way, seizing all their wealth and abandoning them of all their possessions, it's wrong. You will incur the sin from it." "I will incur sin from it? While I have been giving the wealth to my family would also support me in this cause of its sin." Narad Rishi smiled and looked at Ratnakar and said, "Hey Ratnakar, human beings have a unique tendency. If it's beneficial to them, if it's going to help them, they'll take it. But if they feel that it's not of use to them, it may even be harmful to them, they would even abandon it. So I'm very sure people in your family, be it your wife, your children, your parents, your in-laws, they may seize all the wealth that you have. But when it comes to sharing sins, I'm very sure, Ratnakar, they will not share even an iota of it. What if they share? They will not share. And if I would go them and ask, and by the time you escape," Narad Rishi said, "I swear on the name of the Lord, Narayan, whom I keep uttering, I will not move from this place until you come." Ratnakar ran home and he spoke to his wife and children. "My dear wife and my children, all these years I have tried amassing wealth for you people, and I have been earning the bread and butter for the family. What if sins come to me, I accrue sins, will you be sharing those sins? Will you be partaking those sins?" The wife and children smiled. They said, "Dear father," and she said, "Dear husband, probably we may be amassing the wealth that you bring. That's true, that's human tendency. Why should we share the sins that you incur? Why should we share the sins that you accrue? Why should we partake of it? No, we would not." That second, that nanoth of a second when they clearly said no, was a sign of enlightenment for Ratnakar. He said, what Narad Rishi said was right. and he ran towards the forest. He saw that he had tied Narad Rishi. He fell at his feet, untied him and said, "Hey Rishi, you were absolutely right when you said that humans will never ever partake of the sins that one commits. So what do I do now?" Narad Rishi said, "You look at that tree, what is it called?" Ratnakar said, "Mara, Mara, this was the tree that you tied me to." "Yes," he said, "keep reciting this name." "Keep reciting the same name?" Narad Rishi said, "You have seen me reciting one name, Narayan, many times. Why don't you recite this word Mara?" So he started reciting Mara, 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 and he did that fast. Mara, 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 Mara became Ram, Ram, Ram. And he recited for weeks together, months together, years together. And at the end of it, there was a beautiful anthill that was built on him. Because had the termites, the ants, known that he was a living creature, they would have really feared. He stood so erect. He was meditating in such immense concentration that the termites around him thought he was none but a log of wood, and they built an anthill over him. An anthill in Sanskrit is called as Valmikam. Oh, Sanskrit. And in Sanskrit, an anthill is called Valmikam. So what is this Valmikam? I spoke about a great poet called Deshika who says, "Vedopabrahmana kutuhalina nibaddham Vishwambhara shruti bhavena maharshinayat." Vishwambhara, one who supports the entire earth, none but the Mother Earth herself. Vishwambhara, shruti bhavena, her ear. Now we have ears to hear. Which is the ear for the Mother Earth herself? For the Mother Earth, the anthills are her ears, and she hears through those anthills. Anthills are called Valmikam. Remember that he stood like a log of wood meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and an anthill was built over him. So this is called as Valmikam. Then there was immense rain, and when water poured over the anthill started going away, and this resplendent person inside the anthill, who had been meditating for years together, for millenniums together, arose with such great halo. And since he arose from the anthill, he was called as Valmiki. The anthill is called Valmikam, and since he arose from that anthill, he was called Valmiki. This Valmiki was a great person who composed, who wrote, who reported the life history of Ram, which is Ramayana. Hence, in the next episode, we need to check who this Valmiki is and what motivated him to write this great epic itihas called as Ramayana. Thank you.